So, hello everyone. My name is Julio. I am, as it was said, from Guatemala, or this place occupied today by the Guatemalan state. Today, I want to talk to you about Circles Ubi, and also a new project we're working on, which we call Entropy, Circles Entropy. We like to call it the future of cash. It's basically an anonymous peer-to-peer credit and trust system, not even in Web3. Now we're in the post-web. So first, a bit of context, a bit of history. My academic mentor, David Graeber, rest in peace. He wrote a book a few years ago called Debt, The Last 5,000 Years, where he basically lays out how money has shifted throughout history from cycles of credit money or virtual money to bullion, to metallic money. And these cycles are often related to the rise and the fall of empires. So during the 1970s, as some of you might know, Nixon, the president of the United States, was trying to pay for the cost of the war in Vietnam. And as part of his strategies, he basically pulled the US dollar out of the gold standard, bringing us into a new credit cycle that started from the 70s. And since then, everyone seems to be indebted to banks. Who here is indebted? Show of hands, yeah, okay, yeah. Some people, yeah. The reason why I bring this historical context here is because when we talk about crypto, we're mostly talking about digital assets. And these assets, while they are powerful and they're useful, they often lack the other side of the coin, which is the liability, which is the side of credit. So if we think about money as debt, and debt being a series of promises that we make to one another, then where does crypto credit lie in all of this? And I think this might be useful for maybe the next 5,000 years. So a bit of an overview of today. Today, as my buddy Brett Scott likes to say, there is a war on cash. The payments infrastructures of the planet have been commodified, essentially, by monopolies, oligopolies, private corporations. There is a lot of digital surveillance on e-money. A lot of money is made out of our information, out of our transactions, out of our promises, our relationships, and cash is under threat. So when we talk about anonymity, cash is the bicycle of payments, is the biggest privacy-preserving payment solution we have today. But the problem is we don't have an analogous digital solution alive. There's been many attempts, of course, historically. I don't have time to go into them, like DigiCash and so on, but I believe the time is ripe now to make that happen. Well, before that, I want to give a bit of a tap into the power of mythology to talk about cryptography as pharmaca. Now, in this book by Madeleine Miller, the goddess or the titan Circe is said to use the plant pharmaca in order to turn gods into monsters, turn humans into gods, and to also make rebellion against the gods. Famously, in the book, it is written that Zeus used the pharmaca plant to fight his father Kronos and banish him away. And also the plant is said to grow out of the blood of gods. So I want to use this analogy to talk about cryptography, because cryptography is also born out of the blood of gods, of war with states, as we saw in the previous talks. It was also actually born out of love, but that's a different story for asynchronous cryptography. But the point here I want to make, and I want to be more affirmative, is to say how can we use pharmaca or cryptography not just to become invisible to the gods, to the nation states, maybe to fight or even to destroy them, but actually how could we create other systems of coordination? How could we use cryptography as a tool, as a weapon, in order to free life, in order to let there be dark? Now, I'm going to give you an example of a project that I started, that I work on, that I co-founded, along with many lovely people, called Circus Ubi, which is a basic income that is a protocol used by communities in order to give each other a basic income without having to wait for the state. So the system works in a way where everyone in the system essentially has the power to bring money into being. So in Circles, there is no banks, there is no states issuing debt outwards. It is people, the ones that are saying, here are my promises, here are my circles. I trust you, therefore I accept your circles. And so through that process, we create what is known as a web of trust within the PGP world. And since we launched in 2020, we have over 100,000 accounts all over the world. There's people everywhere trying to organize to use it. We run assemblies internationally every month, and in Berlin as well, where we have over 700 members, more than 30 businesses using it to pay for the stuff that they need to live. So food, we work with farmers in Brandenburg, which is the region surrounding Berlin, stuff like therapy, and many, many other things. And so here you can see an example of one of our community members says. He says, Circles provides, through an embodied experience, a glimpse of what UBI can feel like when you can cover basic needs with a currency earned by the mere fact of existing. And I cannot describe, Anthony says, how different it felt to be able to get high-quality groceries with his circles. And so this is not a utopia in the future. This is happening right now in Berlin, and soon in many other places. We are organizing to have municipal pilots everywhere else in the world. But of course, to do that, we need anonymity. Why? Because today, the Circles web of trust is essentially transparent. So anyone with enough knowledge of an API can look at the whole payment graph and the whole web of trust, which is, of course, not ideal. And so, hence, I am here to talk to you about Circles 2.0 or Circles Entropy, which basically is trying to tap into this notion of islands of low entropy that physicist Schrödinger talked about to express how living creatures, human beings included, are able to maintain a high level of order within increasing chaos. And so we want to create Circles Entropy in order for people to have more data autonomy and lower the entropy that the information wars of today have created. So you can think about Circles Entropy as a holistic privacy solution for digital payments, for scale-free crypto credit applications, as Chris Goes likes to call it, anonymous trust verification, so these things like proof of humanity, where you can prove or attest that another person is a person without having to scan their eyeballs, for example, as WorldCoin likes to do. Of course, UBI and things like zero-knowledge analytics, which I don't have the time to go into. Just to give you a sense of the landscape, I didn't put CBDCs there because they're not really relevant at this point, but you know, things like Visa, MasterCard, traditional payment systems are means of payment, but their business model is based on surveillance. Whereas things like WorldCoin, their system, they say that it's somehow privacy preserving, but it's really a digital asset. So when you give someone a token and you call it a basic income, and the price of that token is constantly fluctuating, it's not really a basic income because you're not going to use it to buy the things that you need to live. So there is a design problem there. Now, on the other hand, you have privacy coins, which are pretty cool, which have mostly solved the privacy problem, but they're also designed to be digital assets. And so the question that we pose is, how could we design and create a system that functions like cash, but that is people power, people power credit? In the literature, you might call it mutual credit, mesh credit. I'm not really sort of keen on the specifics there, but what I think it's important is that today, especially at this political juncture that we're in, it is very important that people politicize monetary creation and claim that power, giving it to themselves. So how does entropy work? Here we have the data life cycle of entropy. It's basically a peer-to-peer anonymous trust verification system. We call it a pluriverse in the sense that in Circles there is one person, one currency system. So there is no one universal Circles to rule them all. Everyone issues Circles at an equal rate so that when they trust each other, they say, you are a person, I trust you, I'm willing to accept your money. And then these tokens are swapped around within this anonymous web of trust that we're developing. So to do that, we're also thinking with the NIM people to route the network level traffic of the application there, probably with some changes to some of the parameters. And we're also leveraging, we're really happy about this, the taiga system. And I encourage you to go watch Julia's presentation on EthCC if you're here around in a couple of days. What the NOMA is building is really important and powerful infrastructure that has the potential of changing the landscape of privacy in the world. And it's important that we connect our efforts so that we can build something that is stronger together. And yeah, we have gossip nodes and solver nodes that propagate messages and then try to solve for the trust relationships and the settlement of payments in any blockchain, really. So maybe just to go a bit deeper into the history of gossip. Gossip was actually a word that used to mean close female friend during the Middle Ages in Europe. And because of the witch hunts and during the enclosure of the commons, this word became increasingly related to witches, to women doing secrets and spreading bad information, and it became, there was some sort of patriarchal tackle that took place where today, even today, the notion of gossip is seen as a negative thing, where in fact, it has a lot of revolutionary potential because it was a thing that, you know, the oppressed people use, oppressed women use to share information with each other without a third-party observer, right? And so the question I would like to pose today as a sort of imagination exercise is to say, how can gossip serve us in order to build a post-web world? And for that, apologies for the format. PDFs are strange. I wanted to talk a bit about skywaves. Who knows what skywaves are? Show of hands. Okay. So skywave is basically how our grandparents used to do long-distance radio. To use a skywave, you basically send a signal to the ionosphere. It reaches, bounces back, goes to the Earth, and then it keeps bouncing until it reaches the place you want to go. This is how people in the past used to get radio from Japan, for example. And it became a bit out of fashion after the Second World War. It was discovered by radio like amateurs, and so it is not like military technology. And so just as an idea, if we are thinking critically about not just using the current internet substrate, the cables that are running under the oceans of the planet today, what other ways can we think to propagate peer-to-peer messages? Well, maybe the radio waves is one. And so if people could communicate on the gossip to gossip level, we could potentially create a system where you can send money, you can send information without having to use the internet or the web. And so I want to end with our black paper. We call it a black paper because we're interested to create a narrative that goes beyond the logic of white papers. So for the last 10 years, white papers have signified the values of both transparency as well as trustlessness. And what we're building with Circles, we're saying, what if we could create a system that is based on trust, but that is also anonymous? And so hence the black paper. And we encourage also people in the space that it seems that there is a bit of a boom happening in terms of intellectual output, people building new systems, different systems. So if you want to create your own black paper or purple paper, whatever you want, we encourage you to do so. We need more colors in the rainbow. There's a QR code to the black paper. You can scan it and read it and give us your feedback. And yeah, I'm around for the whole day and also tomorrow. So if you want to talk and get in touch and figure out how we can work together, we're starting to build this today together with the NOMA and also the Informal Systems Collaborative Finance team. We're very excited about these alliances. And so, yeah, let there be dark. Are there any questions? Because I did it kind of fast. Yeah.
Could you go back to the slide with the QR code?
Yeah.
Or if not, could you tell us where we can find the black paper?
Yes, I can't go back for some reason. No, let me see. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you foresee the migration of the current Circles community in Berlin to the new anonymous version?
Thank you. Yeah, so I think there is a couple of things here. As I understand, and I'm not a technologist, I'm an economic anthropologist, in order to have something like the Circus Entropy protocol be built on top of an EVM rollup, you would need to have something like pasta curves, which is these curves that were invented by Zcash that also Noma uses in order to be able to settle there. So we've gotten some positive responses from the current blockchain that we're in, which is Gnosis, but also from other ones like Celo, that they would be willing to implement this sort of thing so that we can bring real anonymity to the EVMs and have real use case applications for them. So we hope it's okay. It should be sort of changing the backend, not so much in the front end, but it's a question. And as I said, we have assemblies every month, so where we discuss these topics. So yeah, let's see what the community also says. Thank you. Any other questions? There's one in the back. Could you describe what a scale-free credit system was? Yes, so what do I mean when I say scale-free credit? This is actually an idea or meme that I got from Chris Goes as a way to describe the type of systems that Circles represents. It's basically a system where the network has no limit to how it can grow. So if you enter something like Circles, you say, I trust these certain people, but the people that I trust don't have to trust me back. And so the topology that emerges is really dependent on the social relations of trust and credit that are involved. So in Circles today, as I mentioned, there are over 100,000 people that have successfully passed the 3 people verification. Of course, we probably have some bots there, but the point is that there's people in Chile that use it. There's people in the Philippines that use it. There's people in Bali, Indonesia that use it. So the system is hyper-local. So it's local first, but also potentially planetary. And so as a civil defense mechanism, it's also very useful because when I trust someone, it means you can think about it as counterparty risk. So I'm saying I'm willing to trust you that your promises are legit. So if you mess with that trust, I am the one that's going to get in trouble, but not the people that trust me, right? So there is some sort of self-defense mechanism inbuilt within the system. So yeah, that's. I hope I answered your question. All right, I don't want to take too much time, so thank you very much.